Have you ever taken a bite of fish that turned out disappointingly dry, even though you thought you followed the recipe precisely? Many of us over 65 grew up believing fish was a simple, almost foolproof protein, only to discover that what once worked in our younger years doesn't always hold true now. The subtle changes in our taste buds, nutritional needs, and even medication routines mean that cooking fish can become a bit more complicated. Yet it's also potentially more rewarding. Fish, especially the kinds rich in omega-3 fatty acids, can be a marvelous addition to our diets when prepared thoughtfully. For a lot of people in their mid-60s or beyond, there's a common challenge. How do we get the best possible health benefits from fish without jeopardizing flavor or risking issues like undercooking or unsafe handling? It matters because the stakes are higher for us. Many seniors benefit immensely from the protein, vitamin D, and omega-3 fats in fish, which can support heart health, joint function, and even cognitive well-being. But done poorly, either by picking the wrong varieties, using outdated cooking methods, or overlooking potential medication interactions, fish can become more of a problem than a pleasure. No one wants to deal with foodborne illness or to miss out on nutrients that can keep us feeling energetic and independent. If you've ever wondered if you're truly getting the most out of the fish you cook, you're in the right place. By the end of this conversation, you'll have a new perspective on fish selection, prep work, cooking techniques, seasoning approaches, and food safety practices, all tailored to those of us who are navigating life after 65. My goal is not to burden you with complicated rules, but to share a few simple strategies that can help you continue enjoying fish in a way that boosts both flavor and well-being. We'll uncover the 5 most common fish cooking mistakes senior home cooks make, some of which might surprise you. More importantly, we'll talk about how to fix them without giving up the meals you've loved for decades. As someone who has spent years in the kitchen, working with families and individuals aiming to maintain a balanced diet, I've seen firsthand how small tweaks in cooking methods can lead to significant improvements in both health and satisfaction at mealtime. Please remember, though, that while I'm sharing insights backed by culinary expertise and general wellness knowledge, any specifics about medication adjustments or major dietary changes should be discussed with a qualified health professional. Think of this as friendly advice, the kind you'd get from a knowledgeable neighbor who's done her homework, rather than as a prescription. So before we dig into these 5 mistakes, I invite you to reflect on your own relationship with fish. Do you tend to broil or bake? Are you more of a pan-fry enthusiast, or do you rely on convenience options like fish sticks? Perhaps you've been told by your doctor or dietitian that adding more seafood to your diet is a must. Whatever your situation, stick with me. I promise that by the end, you'll have practical, age-friendly tips to make your fish dishes shine on the plate and support your overall vitality. Let's discover what might be going wrong in your kitchen and how to fix it, one delicious bite at a time. Now let's address the first common error many seniors make when cooking fish, and why it might be working against us more than we realize. You might be surprised to learn that a lot of us overcook our fish, thinking it needs to be extra firm or thoroughly browned to be safe. Alina, a 73-year-old retired teacher, found herself falling into this trap repeatedly. She'd always worry about undercooking, so she'd leave her salmon in the oven for just a few extra minutes. The result? Fish that was tough, dry, and lacking the moisture it once had. Alina missed the juicy, flaky texture she remembered from her younger days. When a friend pointed out that she might be losing valuable nutrients by overexposing the fillet to heat, Alina set out to learn a new approach. One common misconception is that fish must be cooked until it's solid white, or that it should flake heavily at the slightest touch. While it's true that you want to avoid eating undercooked fish, especially if you have a weaker immune system or specific health concerns, there is a balance. Overcooking can strip away essential nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids and certain vitamins that support everything from heart health to cognitive function. Plus, a rubbery texture can make fish unappealing, which sometimes leads seniors to abandon fish altogether in favor of red meat or other proteins that may not offer the same cardiovascular benefits. So how do you know when your fish is perfectly done? A good rule of thumb is to pay attention to what chefs call doneness markers. Typically, the internal temperature for most cooked fish should hover around 145 degrees Fahrenheit, 63 degrees Celsius. If you're using a thermometer, insert it into the thickest part of the fillet. Alternatively, observe the color. A perfectly cooked piece of salmon, for instance, should remain slightly translucent in the center. With white fish like cod, look for a pearly or opaque finish, but still moist rather than chalky. In practical terms, consider using gentler cooking methods or shorter cooking times. Try steaming or poaching your fish instead of baking it for long stretches. If you prefer baking, reduce the oven temperature slightly or wrap the fillet in parchment paper to seal in moisture. Another handy trick is to remove the fish from the heat source just before it's fully done. Then let it rest for a minute or two. It will continue cooking slightly during that resting period, a technique often referred to as carryover cooking. When Alina made the switch to shorter cook times and started using a meat thermometer, she noticed a remarkable difference. Not only did her salmon taste better, but she also felt reassured that she wasn't losing those precious nutrients essential for her heart and brain. From a physical perspective, getting the right balance of omega-3s can bolster cardiovascular well-being. Emotionally, Alina regained a sense of confidence in the kitchen. She no longer dreaded fish night. In fact, she looked forward to it because it felt both safe and satisfying. If you've caught yourself leaving the fish on the stove or in the oven a bit too long, try experimenting with these tips. You might be amazed at how much more enjoyable your meals become. And remember, cooking fish to a point of dryness isn't adding any extra protection. It's just taking away flavor and nutrients. Feel free to pause and think about whether you've ever done this in your own kitchen. If you have, commit to making one small change, like testing a 12-minute bake instead of a 20-minute one. Next, let's turn our attention to another subtle mistake: overlooking the importance of fish variety and defaulting to the same few types of fish over and over, without considering mercury levels or nutrient diversity. Many seniors get stuck in a rut, buying the same fish week in and week out, simply because it's familiar or seems affordable. Margaret, age 74, found herself rotating between canned tuna and tilapia for most of her meals. She'd grown up in a household that rarely ate seafood, so when she started cooking fish for herself, she stuck with what felt safe. However, over time, she noticed she wasn't experiencing the benefits that her friends praised when they talked about omega-3s and feeling more energetic. She also began hearing warnings about mercury in certain fish, which gave her pause. A misconception persists that if a type of fish is sold in the grocery store, it must automatically be suitable for everyone. While regulations do protect consumers to an extent, the truth is that not all fish are equally good for older adults. Larger, predatory species such as swordfish, king mackerel, and certain types of tuna can contain higher mercury levels. High mercury exposure over time can be especially concerning for individuals on multiple medications or those with certain health conditions. Meanwhile, fish like wild-caught salmon, sardines, anchovies, and trout tend to be richer in beneficial fats and lower in contaminants. If you're looking to broaden your fish horizons, step one is to explore varieties that offer a robust nutritional profile without carrying an excessive mercury load. Sardines, for instance, are small, which means they accumulate less mercury from the ocean. They're also a powerhouse of calcium and vitamin D, if you choose the canned sardines with bones. Salmon, especially wild-caught, is an excellent source of protein and essential fats that support joint health and cognitive function. If you've been relying too heavily on tuna, consider light tuna varieties, which typically have less mercury than albacore, white tuna. But remember to keep your intake to a recommended moderation, often around 2 servings per week. Don't be afraid to try new cooking methods that suit these fish. For example, sardines can be quickly sautéed with olive oil, garlic, and herbs, then served over whole grain toast for a simple meal. Salmon can be baked with a drizzle of lemon juice and a sprinkle of dill. Trout, pan-fried with a light dusting of seasoned flour, can be a welcome change from your usual tilapia routine. The point is to diversify. Rotating different species through your meal plan offers a range of nutrients while limiting exposure to any one potential contaminant. Margaret gradually incorporated these alternatives, and while she didn't give up her familiar tilapia altogether, she noticed that adding salmon once a week and occasionally trying sardines gave her a more balanced nutrient intake. As she explored these options, she also discovered she liked the flavors more than she'd expected, boosting her enthusiasm for cooking. Physically, she felt more confident that she was doing the right thing for her body, and emotionally, it was fun to experiment in the kitchen without feeling overwhelmed. Take a moment to reflect on your own fish choices. Have you been relying on a narrow range, possibly missing out on certain nutrients while risking higher exposure to mercury? If so, consider adding a new variety to your shopping list next time you're at the store. Your taste buds and your body might thank you. Let's now move on to another mistake that can slip by unnoticed. Using the same seasoning habits we had in our 40s or 50s, not realizing that salt and flavor requirements shift as we age. A surprising number of seniors stick to salt-laden marinades, breadings, and sauces because that's how they learned to cook fish decades ago. Walter, 69, remembered his mother coating fish in a heavy breadcrumb mixture and sprinkling a generous helping of salt. It was his comfort food, but years later, with a mild heart condition and a doctor's advice to watch his sodium intake, Walter realized his beloved fish recipes might be working against him. Many of us believe that salt is the key to flavor. Yet as we age, two things happen. Our taste buds can become less sensitive, causing us to reach for the salt shaker more often, and our cardiovascular systems become more vulnerable to high blood pressure and fluid retention. Especially for those on certain blood pressure medications or diuretics, too much salt can cause complications. Moreover, over-reliance on salt can overshadow the delicate taste of the fish itself. One way to shift this mindset is to experiment with alternative seasonings that are both heart-healthy and flavorful. Lemon juice, fresh herbs like dill and parsley, garlic, ginger, and spices like paprika or turmeric can all elevate the taste of fish without the health drawbacks of excessive salt. If you do enjoy a hint of saltiness, opt for lower sodium soy sauce or a light sprinkle of sea salt at the very end of cooking. This practice, known as finishing salt, allows you to taste the salt more directly on the surface of your food, reducing the total amount you need to use. Consider also using healthy fats that complement fish well. A drizzle of high-quality olive oil can help carry flavors and keep the fish moist. Add a sprinkle of black pepper for an anti-inflammatory kick, or marinate your fish in a mixture of olive oil, lemon juice, and fresh herbs for a few minutes before cooking. Walter tried a marinade of lemon zest, minced garlic, a small pinch of salt, and chopped basil. He found it just as satisfying as his old salted breadcrumb method, perhaps even more so, because he could really savor the freshness of the fish. From a physical health standpoint, limiting salt intake helps manage blood pressure and can reduce stress on the kidneys. Emotionally, it feels good to be proactive about cardiovascular health, especially if you're juggling medication routines or keeping an eye on risk factors like high cholesterol. Walter discovered he had more energy for his daily walks, and he wasn't left feeling bloated after meals, a subtle change that made a noticeable difference in his day-to-day life. If your typical fish cooking routine involves shaking that salt shaker with abandon, consider experimenting with just one new herb or seasoning technique this week. Maybe try adding fresh rosemary if you're baking your fish, or a dusting of cumin if you're pan-searing. By broadening your flavor palette, you could discover tastes that you love while doing something positive for your health. Before we continue, think about which of these topics, overcooking, not diversifying fish choices, or heavy salt use, resonates most with you. Feel free to jot down one actionable step for your next meal. Now let's explore a fourth common oversight: ignoring possible medication interactions and dietary needs that may affect how and how often we should consume fish. Many seniors are surprised to learn that certain types of fish, or even fish oil supplements, can interact with medications. Carolyn, 71, had been taking blood thinners for years to manage a heart condition. She loved fish, particularly those rich in omega-3 oils, believing they were a heart-healthy choice. Yet she started noticing more frequent bruising and bleeding when she began consuming larger amounts of fish oil capsules. After speaking with her healthcare provider, she realized that high doses of certain omega-3 supplements can, in some cases, amplify the effects of blood thinners. The misconception is that because fish is healthy, it's universally safe in any quantity. While fish is indeed a valuable protein source, Seniors often have additional considerations. Blood pressure, diabetes, or cholesterol medications can play a role in how the body processes certain nutrients. If you have kidney issues, you may need to be mindful of protein intake. Certain autoimmune conditions might also require a careful look at dietary fats, even the good ones. The key is not to eliminate fish, but to tailor your approach in consultation with a healthcare provider if you're unsure about potential interactions. Practically speaking, moderation is a sensible approach. If you're eating fish rich in omega-3s a few times a week, you may not need a high-dose supplement. Alternatively, if your doctor specifically recommends an omega-3 supplement for an anti-inflammatory benefit, be sure to mention any blood-thinning medications or other prescriptions you're taking. This ensures that dosages can be adjusted or your blood work can be monitored as needed. Beyond medication interactions, consider your unique dietary needs. Seniors often require more calcium, vitamin D, and occasionally more protein to maintain muscle mass. Fish can be an excellent resource for these nutrients, but balance is crucial. If you're aiming to reduce cholesterol, picking fattier fish high in omega-3s may help, but only if your overall lifestyle supports that goal: exercise, portion control, and routine checkups. If you're concerned about bone health, pairing fish with calcium-rich sides like broccoli or kale can create a synergy of nutrients. Carolyn's story shows that awareness is half the battle. Once she realized that her bruising might be related to her high intake of fish oil supplements, she reduced the dosage under her doctor's guidance. Her bruising improved, and she still enjoyed salmon and mackerel as part of her normal meals. She felt relieved that she didn't have to give up fish entirely, but simply had to make smarter, more informed decisions. From an emotional standpoint, this small adjustment restored Carolyn's confidence in her ability to manage her health. She wasn't helpless or forced to choose between fish and her medication needs. If you suspect your current medication regime could be affected by your fish consumption, don't hesitate to ask your pharmacist or healthcare provider. A quick conversation can help you avoid complications and ensure you get the full benefits of a fish-rich diet. Next, let's look at the fifth and final mistake, one that many of us overlook: improper storage and handling that can compromise food safety and even undermine the nutritional value of fish. Sometimes fish ends up in the fridge a day or two longer than intended. Or we might thaw fish on the countertop for hours, thinking it's the easiest way to get dinner on the table. Richard, 76, found himself doing exactly that. He'd often pick up some frozen cod fillets but wouldn't remember to put them in the refrigerator to thaw until the day he planned to cook them. Running short on time, he'd just leave them on the kitchen counter all afternoon, creating a prime environment for bacteria to flourish. After experiencing a bout of food poisoning, he realized his methods needed an update. A common misconception is that if something is frozen, it's safe no matter how we thaw it. In reality, the danger zone for bacterial growth is roughly between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. Leaving fish, or any perishable food, out at room temperature can allow bacteria to multiply rapidly. Seniors, especially those with compromised immune systems or other health concerns, are more susceptible to foodborne illnesses, which can lead to complications like dehydration or reduced ability to absorb medications properly. The good news is that safer handling doesn't have to be complicated. Transfer frozen fish to the refrigerator the night before you plan to cook it, allowing it to thaw gradually at a safe temperature. If you're in a hurry, place the sealed fish in a bowl of cold water, changing the water every 30 minutes. Or use the defrost function on your microwave, cooking the fish immediately afterward. Once thawed, try to cook the fish within 24 hours to maintain freshness. Proper storage is just as important. Fresh fish should smell clean, like the ocean, not overly fishy or sour. Wrap it tightly, store it in the coldest part of your fridge, usually a special drawer or a designated shelf, and plan to cook it within a day or two. For longer storage, keep it frozen, but be mindful of the freezer's temperature, and be sure to label packages with dates so you don't accidentally let them linger for months on end. Beyond protecting yourself from illness, these safe storage practices also help preserve flavor and texture. When Richard switched to thawing his cod in the fridge, he noticed his fish tasted fresher and flakier. Emotionally, it also reduced his stress about mealtime. He wasn't rushing around at the last minute trying to figure out how to safely cook partially frozen fillets. With these 5 mistakes, overcooking, limited fish variety, excessive salt, ignoring medication considerations, and improper storage, fresh in your mind, it's time to envision how you can avoid them. You've seen how each pitfall impacts not just the flavor of your meals, but also important aspects of your health. Taking small steps in your cooking routine can help you find a new level of enjoyment and confidence with fish, without sacrificing your well-being. Before wrapping up, let's briefly review the major takeaways from everything we've discussed. First, cooking fish beyond its ideal doneness can rob you of nutrients and flavor. Second, relying too heavily on a single type of fish can mean missing out on varied nutrients and may expose you to higher levels of mercury. Third, leaning on salt or salty seasonings can pose risks to your blood pressure and cardiovascular health, especially as you get older. Fourth, certain fish choices or supplements can interact with medications, so it's vital to be mindful of your unique medical situation. Finally, proper storage and handling are essential to prevent foodborne illnesses and preserve the quality of your fish. These are not insurmountable issues. In fact, each one can be addressed with simple, cost-effective adjustments, often involving steps as easy as setting a timer, changing a marinade, or storing fish properly in the fridge. The transformation can be both immediate, improving the taste and safety of your next meal, and long-term, supporting heart health, cognitive function, and overall vitality. By being proactive, you create a future where cooking fish remains a pleasure rather than a chore, a confidence builder rather than a source of worry. If you're feeling the motivation to make changes, here's a gentle prompt. Pick one of these mistakes and commit to correcting it at least once in the coming week. Maybe you'll try a new fish like sardines or trout. Perhaps you'll invest in a kitchen thermometer and pay close attention to cooking times. Or you might explore seasoning blends that don't rely on heavy salt. By focusing on even one improvement, you set yourself on a path toward a more nourishing, satisfying relationship with fish. That's not to say everything will transform overnight. Healthy habits take time and practice. But consider how you might feel in a few weeks if you consistently adopt these approaches. Imagine serving a beautifully cooked salmon fillet to a friend or loved one, confident you've maximized both the taste and health benefits. Envision yourself enjoying fish without worrying about medication conflicts or food safety slips. This sense of independence and mastery in the kitchen is what many of us cherish as we age. To take the next step, you might decide to speak with your doctor or a nutritionist about the types of fish that best fit your health profile. Maybe you'll share this video with a neighbor or friend, transforming your personal journey into a group effort. Or you could simply subscribe to a reliable source of senior-friendly cooking tips. Any of these choices will reinforce the positive momentum you've built by watching this far. Whatever path you choose, remember that you hold the power to make informed decisions that support your well-being. Cooking fish after 65 doesn't have to be a guessing game. With these simple strategies, cooking to the right doneness, varying your choices, seasoning thoughtfully, considering medications, and practicing safe storage, you can continue to relish the flavors and nutritional perks of fish for years to come. Embrace the journey, celebrate each improvement, and trust in your own ability to adapt. Here's to enjoying every succulent, flaky bite as you thrive in your golden years.